I'm Brad.
We're 6260 Ohana, California, and tonight we're at Universal Studios Hollywood Halloween Horror Nights.
Yes, so come along with us as we show you the RIP tour and everything that's involved with it. So we're going to show you what we're doing, what mazes we go through, what's included, and we'll start showing you now. And at the very end, we'll let you know our tips, tricks, and what we find out about the RIP tour and what has changed from the past. So let's get going.
Let's go have some fun. We just returned from Universal Studios Hollywood Halloween Horror Nights 2021.
Yeah, say that really fast.
And of course, we did the RIP tour, and it's amazing.
Yeah. So excuse our little bit maybe looking tired because it is 2:30 in the morning right now. Yes, it does go that long.
And it's really hard to hear, and since we're not supposed to be using mics in the park, we are kind of doing an overlay for you guys.
So let's go ahead and talk about the very first thing we did when we got there. Well, parking. So with the RIP tour, parking and not just parking, valet parking is included.
So that's a $45 value if you're there for over 3 hours.
Yeah, so I mean that's great.
It is. So the RIP tour we paid for tonight was $319 per person.
That's going to vary based on the time it is. So earlier it's cheaper, later it gets more expensive, and if it's a weekday or a weekend.
All right, so also just as a comparison to get an idea, the unlimited front of the line pass is $289 tonight.
Yeah, I mean, if you're shelling out that, you might as well get the RIP tour. But the only problem with tonight was everything was sold out. So let's go ahead and talk about the next thing that you get with the RIP tour. Well, you get to go up in that nice little lounge while you're waiting when you check in. And
they have bottles of water when it's hot outside, so that's great.
And right at that front door there is where they actually validate your ticket. So if you don't have your ticket with you when you drive up, don't worry about it. They just give you a little tag and then they'll stamp it at the VIP stand. And also with us, we had a situation when we went up there. We didn't have a ticket with a scan barcode on it or the little QR code on it.
I actually had called and made reservations, so they just sent me a confirmation letter instead of tickets. So that was kind of a strange, like we were a little worried about it, but it all worked out.
Yeah, so if you're in that situation, make sure you have your ID, and you're going to need your ID anyways for if you would want to have an alcoholic drink. Yes.
Adult beverage of choice.
They carded Kim. She thought she was in seventh heaven.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Our tour time was at 5:50 starting. So we waited up there for about a half hour or so, which was nice, relaxing.
The cool part was they had a really, they had a big screen TV that kind of previewed the night and maybe told you a little bit about the shows. So it's kind of a cool intro.
Mm-hmm. So from there, they just kind of told us the ground rules and everything else and took us over to the Moulin Rouge. If you haven't been over there, it is where the VIP buffet is. And so tonight it was the RIP buffet.
So they also had some cool photo ops.
Yeah, they actually took us to the photo op, and we'll show it to you now.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah, I was laughing at Michael. I don't know.
You know, the funny thing about that is I should have known better, and I knew that they were going to pop out and do something, but yet they still get me. I'm such a sucker.
And they actually had another photo op of in front of a couple of screens there right before that too, which was really cool. So let's get to the meal.
It was good. I mean, it's got a really there's some really healthy choices in there and there's some not so healthy. So I think Universal does a really good job of balancing that.
Yeah, we were actually really happy to see fruit and salad. And I know it sounds weird, but I love fruit and salad ever so often when we're eating, because you're going to eat a whole bunch of desserts. The salad actually kind of sounds good at that point.
It does. And so they had some good chicken and they had some beef. And so it was a really well-rounded meal.
Is it gourmet food?
It's theme park food. It's good enough.
Yeah, it's not going to be...
It's not a 5-star dining experience, but really it's... The nice part about it is you can go back through the evening and eat.
Yeah, and which we did, and we had desserts. So the thing to know about that area is it's hours.
So at 9:45, they start taking away the food. And then they start putting it up, only leaving out like the desserts, and you can still get drinks and hot coffee and tea and such. But after that, 12 o'clock, the whole lounge closes.
Yeah. And there's another great thing about that area is that there is a bar back there.
Oh my goodness. I got the coffee drink. It was really good. It was kind of nice to have a little caffeine kick.
Yeah, and they have a good selection of drinks there. And also, if you're wanting to just get regular waters, Coke, Sprites, Coke Zeros, Diet Coke, they have a fridge there that you can go in there if you're just kind of walking around after the tour and go grab one.
Yeah, we definitely grabbed some water after that. So it was kind of nice not to have to worry and buy that in the park.
So yeah, basically after they did that, they gave us an hour to eat. And we met out front and we started heading off to our first mazes, which our first maze was?
That was The Exorcist.
Yeah. Did your head turn around and start spewing?
Mine didn't. Somebody else's did.
Yeah, so The Exorcist was actually an interesting maze to go through.
It was kind of interesting. I'll get to this later. The first time we went through, I kind of felt like it was lackluster, and I was kind of on the fence about it. But we learned later, we went back, and my opinion changed.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I think what happened was Kim got a little bit, I would say, ahead of all the scares, or behind the scares, or whatever way you want to put it.
Timing was off.
Yeah. And so that's one of the things to be aware of when you go through these mazes, is that they'll have that big and lighting. So kind of try to adjust your walk a little bit towards that, and you'll get the scares more often, or at least be able to see them.
So the second time we did that a little bit better, and I liked it a lot more. The first time I didn't even see like the spew of the Exorcist, which is like one of the scariest things ever. Second time I saw it, and I was like, oh, okay.
So from there, we went over to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Leatherface. Ooh. Actually, I thought they did a good job on that one. It was freaky.
It was interesting. And I guess maybe I was just never into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I was more into The Exorcist because I liked The Exorcist. I was kind of
You
like, okay.
liked it?
Yeah, The Exorcist.
Oh my gosh, that scared me.
Oh, I thought it was great because it matched the movie. I had that vibe to it for The Exorcist.
Okay, I see where you're going with that.
Chainsaw Massacre. I've seen the movie a couple times. It's just not my thing, I guess is the way to put it.
I thought they did a good job. It definitely, the essence of the movie and what's going on was brought across.
Yeah, it was there, and it was, it
was gory.
And I think that also what's kind of interesting here is what we did after Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, so this is new this year to the RIP tour, is we went on rides.
Yeah. What? We told you in our past videos not to go on rides because it's a waste of time. Well, here's a different situation we've got now.
The RIP tour, they were saying that they needed to redo their timing to get through the mazes. Like last time we said we weren't able to get through all the mazes with our RIP tour. This time we had more than plenty of time.
Yeah.
So they've worked on that a bit.
Yeah, so what we found out from our team member guide is that in 2019, they actually, after the first week, they all were complaining that all the RIP tours were waiting for so long in lines they weren't getting through things. And so they changed this to have a dedicated RIP tour entrance at most of these mazes.
That was actually really cool because I'll tell you what, the Express Pass, those were really backed up. Like,
yeah.
I'm not sure, we'd have to like go back a different time and do the Express Pass, but I'm not sure I'd be so happy with it. And maybe it was a sold out night too. That would have been really hard.
There were lines, and again, this is the second night, so it could have been a little bit of learning
Timing.
curve.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is that the Express Pass was backed up where the RIP tour areas, we got in fairly quickly, which allowed us to get onto the Mummy, allowed us to get on Jurassic World.
We didn't do it because we didn't want to get wet.
So we found out a couple of things that if you're worried about getting wet at Jurassic World,
You sit in rows 5 or back.
and then towards the center, and the RIP tour will try to get you into those areas, and most people said they just got a couple of drops on them.
It's a whole change because you look at the people came out from the front of the boat and they were soaked.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I want to do that at night.
And we also got to ride Transformers.
Well, some did. Once again, that's one of the few rides that sometimes I don't feel the best after. Like, I have more of a headache. So we decided we went to the tribute store instead.
Yeah, and looked around there. That was just really cool. They had a couple of new things, some new magnets, some new posters, and of course you had to get your sweatshirt.
I did. The sweatshirt's cool. And also they had some, like, glass tumblers they didn't have before that I thought were, like, really cool.
Yeah. So that's one thing about the RIP tour is that when you're doing some of these things, you can say, hey, I want to break off for a moment and ask them where you're going to be, and you can meet back. And even then, that we had somebody from another group that ended up joining our group because they lost their group. So they have phones to call. So it's kind of a great thing is that if you do get lost, don't worry too much. You can ask somebody and they'll help you find your way.
We went up above and we did The Walking Dead, which had we done before, so it wasn't a surprise.
Yeah, really, that is left over from before the pandemic and before they closed. They actually closed it right after they opened Pets for the most part.
Secret Life of Pets, yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of closed at that point, but everything was there. So I guess they just decided to go ahead and reopen it and use it again.
They did, and they had promised when they closed it, John Murdy had said he was going to bring it back for Halloween Horror Nights. So I guess it's something we've done before. I love Walking Dead, so it's something that, like,
Yeah, it was something that we did in the past, that we've gone to the park and it was open during the park and it was also open during Halloween Horror Nights. So maybe it lost a little bit of that luster, that sheen to it.
I think it's because we know it so well at this point. But it's still The Walking Dead, and if you're a fan, it's still interesting to walk through.
So from there, we went to another one.
Universal Monsters, The Bride of Frankenstein Lives.
Yeah, this one was, I would say, and I'm going to call it right now and tell you, this was the biggest surprise of the night.
Okay, I was a little worried when they said they were going to do classic Halloween and horror and give the Bride of Frankenstein her own maze, and I was blown away. I thought it was over the top. It was very theatrical, very, very productive. It was scary, but yet that level of theatrics made it fun too.
And what I was worried is about the 1930s cheesy factor I would put it.
Okay, yeah, but it came across really well. I really thought that was a fantastic maze.
Yeah. We went through it, and the great thing was when you came out, you had that alley, and I'll show you the alley before we went into the RIP tour because you could see the fog. And as we're going through it, that was a lot of fun too. They had
the scare zone.
Yeah, the scares. I guess it's considered a scare zone, but
okay, so you lost me.
So I would consider it almost part of the maze because it had that theming to it as well.
No, it's actually its own scare zone. So.
Oh yeah, but it still had that theming of that 1930s and that old time movie.
It was the Scream Queens.
Yeah. So that was great to see and go through.
They did a good job over there. So I was impressed. I really thought that was going to be like a milder maze, but not so much.
And so from there, we went to the best part of the night. Would you call it?
The Terror Tram?
Yep. And this year's theme was the Purge.
The Ultimate Purge, yeah, that's what they call it. And that was so much fun. That's the only thing we didn't do twice as far as like Halloween themed. And we kind of wish we had. Yeah,
and unfortunately, from what I was kind of seeing, it closes about 11:45. And the wait for that tram is huge. So the cool thing about the tram tour is that you get your own private trolley.
Oh, yeah, that is cool.
And
And they're comfortable seats.
Yeah, and it has a cooler full of water if you're thirsty. And you're only on the trolley for a short time, but it takes you to 2 stops. So the first stop we got to go to,
We walked through the Bates Motel.
but it wasn't quite 100% the Bates Motel. It had a different theme to it.
Yes, it did. It was Purge.
Yeah, that was actually really cool.
That was a good area. That was awesome.
Yeah, and we're saying this because we have actually just the first time we finally watched The Purge.
Yeah, we watched it the other week, and actually, that was well done.
Yeah, so we went through that, and then we had to get some exercise. I think that was scary too. But we had to walk up the hill to go see Mother.
And then we stopped for a photo op with Norman Bates, which was awesome.
Yeah, and they've had that photo op before, which is, we loved it. And I asked Norman how Mother was. He didn't answer me this year.
Yeah, that was a social distance this year. And then we went over to walk through the Purge upper part.
Yes, and that was really cool. And it was really neat. They did really good theming, people popping out and everything else. But we had a special thing that they did for the RIP tour.
We got a photo op with some of the Purge scare actors, and that turned out to be a fun photo. I really liked our photo that turned out.
They actually kind of, I guess, veered us off to one different path, and they had these scare actors coming out and scaring us, and just for the RIP tour, which was really cool.
But you know, the funny thing I'll say is I wasn't expecting it. Like all of a sudden I saw somebody like in our tour group like pop off to take a photo. So I didn't realize it was a photo op. I thought it was just something like she's like, oh, can I get your picture with the scare actors?
We kind of thought, oh, they just asked and they did it. That's really cool. Then we found out it was a photo op. So it's really great. And obviously we're showing you the picture of it and everything else now.
So after that we went up, and that's when we did the Haunting of House Hill. We did first. And okay, so this one we actually watched some of that last night before we went to kind of get an idea of what it would be. I feel like this is one of those houses that you wouldn't understand unless you watched the movie. Like I felt like that of anything that was the most important to watch part of before you go.
Yeah, that series is probably pretty important. Even if you only get 1 or 2 episodes in like we did, it explains a lot what's going on. Because there's things in that if you saw, you're like, what's this about?
I don't think the house or the maze would have been as scary if you hadn't watched at least we watched 2 episodes last night. Actually, it was really intense. And so I actually turned it off.
Yeah.
I'll get back to it at some point because it was definitely good.
But I think that gave us enough overview of knowing what to expect. And then Pandora's Box Ball, there's not a show on it.
The Curse of Pandora's Box. No, it's original just for Halloween Horror Nights.
And it's just awesome. We went through it. We did notice a little bit of change this year.
Because they did this back in 2019, the last Halloween Horror Night.
Yeah, so there was a couple of spots where there were any scare actors where there were before. And that could be just simply as it's 2021.
Yeah, and social distancing and all that stuff.
But it was still fun. It was great.
So after that, we went. Okay, I will say it's a long walk back uphill.
Yeah, you have to walk all the way up. And you kind of walk by this one area that has a big movie screen. And finally you make it to
the Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
And this is where another ride came in that we were able to do.
We did. That was amazing to be able to fix that into the time.
Yeah, so they went through, and be aware of is some of these rides actually close a little bit early, and this is what we were told by our tour guide, is that some of them close, and I think we were seeing around midnight.
It seemed to be about midnight, so if you're into the rides, you'd want to do them a little earlier.
And that's not all the rides, because they still had Flight of the Hippogriff going, and they had The Simpsons still going.
Yes. But Jurassic World closed earlier, too.
Yeah. So it was great to be able to get that fit in, and our tour guide at this point said, you know what, this is the end of our night, so you can come with me, and we can do
Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey.
And then go to
over to Jabbawockeez.
Or you could skip that and then just do Jabbawockeez, or you can do,
call it a night with them and go off on your own.
That's kind of what the choices we got. But what is awesome about this is we got everything in.
We did, and then we had plenty of time. We were done with the tour about 11:30 by the time Jabbawockeez was over.
Yeah, and Jabbawockeez, and we'll show it to you, is kind of one of those things that I was glad to see it, but I didn't feel it fit with Halloween Horror Nights.
Right. I actually would love to go see Jabbawockeez like in Vegas because they have a residence show there. But I kind of was expecting it to be like Halloween music or lighting that was like red and oranges. And it was just like a regular performance. So if you're looking and thinking it's going to have a Halloween twist to it, it doesn't. So if you're looking to, I don't know. It's kind of hard because the dancing's amazing.
Yeah, so if you're expecting that.
But if you're trying to stick to Halloween only things, Jabbawockeez doesn't fit that bill.
And so, yeah, and we, unfortunately, it's like I said, because of what happened in 2019, we never got to see it. So, that's where, so what was the other thing that we got to do? Oh, yeah, we got to go back through and do every maze by itself again because of that RIP entrance. And this is one thing to be aware of. You do not have to use the Express Pass entrance.
So we asked our team member tour guide about it, and he said, no, you don't go to the Express Pass. You go back to the RIP, which is like an express pass or like a super express pass.
Yeah, for most parts, it put us right up front and nobody was around us, and we skipped the Express Pass lines where some of the Express lines were pretty long.
And yeah, the express passes did get lengthy. And it was surprising to me because I thought maybe we'd see other parties throughout the night that did that. But really, I think we saw one or two the whole time. And most of the time, we're the only ones in that RIP tour line. And we just get straight into the maze.
Anyway, it's real simple because you show them this, they scan it, and you're off to the races.
And quite frankly, we got through the 7 houses again. It was like an hour and a half.
We probably could have got 2 or 3 more in, truthfully, if we would have, we were kind of at the end of the night going, okay, we did them all, let's kind of look around and what's going on. But we could have probably got 2 or 3 more in if we really wanted to.
So I probably think if we would have known that Jabbawockeez wasn't Halloween theme, I think we would have gone and done the Terror Tram again and all the houses.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we would have done differently.
So that's something to know. And, hey, it's great. The thing is, with the Terror Tram, I believe you only can use it as an express pass because there's not going to be an RIP tour guide to go through with you like you did the first time.
Okay, and also Walking Dead does not have a dedicated RIP tour line either. They just have the express pass and you join that. So that's the only 2 things that didn't have that RIP tour super fast express lane.
Yeah, so if you want to do it again. Overall, was it worth what we paid?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
You really get so much done in this time. I really feel, and this is my opinion, is that how much we've got done, if you're paying just for it to go, you would have to take it a couple nights because we saw times that are up to 120 minutes, sometimes more.
Right, and think at the end of the night, we went like an hour and a half. We went through all 7 mazes, plus if you would add in just the Terror Tram, which would have probably added another half hour to an hour to your tour time, depending on how long you waited and walked and all that stuff. So if you put that into consideration, all the wait times, I don't know if you could do everything once. Maybe, the Express Pass you probably could. You wouldn't maybe get to do everything twice like we did. So that's just something to kind of think about.
Yeah.
Oh, and also don't forget that for people that are on the RIP tour and annual pass members can also, or you can purchase the early entry. And there were 3 mazes, we'll put the sign up, that had early entry at 5:15 to open.
So that's one way to get more done if you really want to. So yeah, we had a great time and this was fun. Again, we said we'll do this again. Yeah, we did it last time because we enjoyed ourselves. Was this year's better than last year's?
We actually kind of don't think so in some ways. And we were talking about this on the way home.
Yeah.
We were thinking that the pandemic might have kind of maybe limited things because of the uncertainty.
Yeah, there wasn't as much fog. It didn't seem like as much scare actors. There was a lot of scare actors in the scare zone, especially when we were walking down and everything else there. But didn't have as much fog and everything else. So if you're sensitive to that fog, it might be a good thing.
Yes, and maybe that was a problem they heard back and scaled back for. That is a complete possibility.
But I do wish they had more people going up and chasing you around a little bit more. It would have been fun. And the other thing is to realize it was extremely busy. If you're uncomfortable with crowds right now,
That was a sold out night. Yeah, it was a little crowded.
I'll
so
show
that's
you the
just...
pictures of us walking down, and I mean, you could see it's actually busier than it seemed park day that when we went in towards the summer.
So I would say if you're worried about crowds and such, I would go on a Thursday or Sunday.
Yep.
Okay, so what was your favorite house?
So my favorite house of the evening had to be,
I know, right?
I really have to say, the Bride of Frankenstein.
I agree, and I'm shocked.
It was just so well done. Again, it's one of those things that took us totally by surprise. I'm glad to be taken by surprise on it.
I also think I really enjoyed, well, it's not really a house, but that Terror Tram was amazing.
Yeah.
And the Ultimate Purge.
Mm-hmm. So something that also that's kind of cool is if you do wait till the end of the night till about 1:30, they kind of do a, what do you call it, chase out of the park?
Yeah.
And so you can see, I'll show you here where they all kind of line up and do this thing, and they go into the crowd and kind of scare people, and I'll do it for a while. So that was kind of cool, and that was, again, Purge theme.
Yeah, that was awesome. I'm glad we didn't miss that. I would definitely stay around to watch it, because it's kind of like quite a ceremony.
Mm-hmm. So with that, I think it's time for us to say goodnight and
Find your magic. Bye, everyone.